There is no constitutional issue here. The command of the Constitution is plain. There is no moral issue. It is wrong, deadly wrong, to deny any of your fellow Americans the right to vote in this country.
61 years ago this Sunday, President Lyndon B. Johnson delivered his historic "We Shall Overcome" voting rights speech to Congress. The address, which was delivered after the Bloody Sunday violence in Selma, Alabama, called for comprehensive legislation to guarantee voting rights for all Americans and an end to racial injustice. This anniversary comes as Majority Leader John Thune says the Senate will take President Trump's Save America Act to the floor next week for debate. Democrats have been arguing the bill would disenfranchise millions of voters and make it harder for women, minorities, and young people to cast a ballot. Joining us now, presidential historian Doris Kearns Goodwin. Doris, so good to see you. We had Senator Padilla from California join us a short time ago. He voiced those concerns that Democrats have. This will take away the sacred franchise from so many Americans. So please provide for us a little more context about that LBJ moment and how past is connecting with the present.
Oh, good morning. I'd be so glad to do so. I mean, what the marchers were doing on that Selma bridge that produced this voting rights speech was arguing against all the barriers that were put to blacks registering all throughout the South. If you came in to register, you had to say what the 14th Amendment was, what the 16th Amendment was. You had to say how many jelly beans there were in a jar of belly beans, how many watermelon seeds were in a watermelon, things impossible to answer. And as a result, even though 55% of the people in Selma were black, only 2% were registered. So that's what they were up against, all these barriers. And Lyndon Johnson came before the Congress that night. He did it right away. He was going to wait till the following year for voting rights, thinking the Civil Rights Act of '64 needed to be absorbed, but he knew that the conscience of the country had been fired. So I have a particular memory of that speech. I was a graduate student at Harvard listening to it. But more importantly, my late husband had helped to write that speech. He had only 9 hours to do it. He started at 9 in the morning, at 6 at night. He gets in there and he has to put his watch aside. He thinks if I put it aside, time will not go by. And it took him 2 hours, he said, to come up with the first line. It's so true for any of us who write. That first line can be really a long process. It came up with a brilliant line, though. I speak tonight for the dignity of man and the destiny of democracy. And then he went on, every now and then history and fate meet at a certain time in a certain place. So it was in Lexington and Concord. So it was at Appomattox. So it was in Selma, Alabama, positioning Selma in those great moments of history. And then he said, this is not a Negro problem, not a white problem, not a Northern problem, not a Southern problem. It is an American problem. And we are met here tonight, not as Republicans, not as Democrats, to meet that problem. And then once he got that done, he went out to take a walk and smoke his cigar. And he heard kids in the distance singing, "We shall overcome." And then he came back in and wrote the line that makes that speech now called the "We Shall Overcome" speech. He said that even if we pass this bill, there's still a century of injustice to overcome. And then Johnson very slowly said, "And we shall overcome." And what that meant was the anthem of the civil rights movement that had given bravery to the civil rights marchers for years was now being lifted to the highest chambers of power. And John Lewis, who was with Martin Luther King that night, said he cried, King did that night, one of the rare times he ever saw him crying, knowing the Voting Rights Act would pass. And the incredible thing, guys, is that at that time, 95% of the country thought this was right. It wasn't a partisan issue. It was the right thing to do. And then in 1981, Ronald Reagan extended the Voting Rights Act for 25 years. He said it's the crown jewel of American liberties. In 2006, George Bush Jr. extended it for another 25 years, saying finally the segregationist lock has been broken on the ballot box. So it's been such an important celebratory part of our history, and it's so heartbreaking to know that at the anniversary of this and the anniversary of Selma, that those barriers are being put back up rather than tumbling down.
Doris, it's so wonderful to hear that story about how the speech was written. Really a glorious story and a wonderful speech. But you know, we have not only the Senate taking up the Save America Act, which could impose new restrictions on voting. We don't think that's going to pass next week. We are waiting for a Supreme Court decision that would weaken the protections of the Voting Rights Act, that would deal with whether you can take into account race in drawing congressional lines. And I wonder, what do you think to the argument that some people make that we've made so much progress as a nation that it's no longer necessary to take race into consideration when drawing these congressional lines? What do you say to them?
I wish that were true, and maybe someday it will be, but the Supreme Court took away the need to clear any kind of new devices you put in before the federal government so they could make sure that these kind of barriers weren't being reintroduced. And the Supreme Court knocked that down, saying we've gone far enough. And now they're saying the same thing. Is this going to go on forever? If we could be sure that our voting was safe and allowing every eligible voter to vote without putting up barriers, then yes. But until we can be sure of that, and the very passage, hopefully, as they want this Save America Act to pass, is an illustration that that cannot be true. We have to keep giving these safeguards in, and I think the voting rights people would say this is the most important issue. Lyndon Johnson said that voting rights was the fundamental right upon which all the others depend. And I think that's important to keep in mind. We have to worry about the Supreme Court decision. We have to worry about, even if the Save America Act doesn't pass, certain states may pass those kind of restrictions. And I think people on both sides of the aisle should realize this is not a partisan. This is an American issue. I think it's the most important issue that's facing us right now in this country, right now, today, and tomorrow.
Words we hope they hear. Presidential historian Doris Kearns Goodwin. Doris, thank you again.